Hello, my name is Chuck Wolf. Over the years, I've worked in many different roles, including leading my own leadership consulting company since 1994. I've worked for and with some of the best companies and universities in the world, and have had the opportunity to work with government officials, military organizations, and public and private schools. I'm a leading expert and pioneer in emotional intelligence. Since 2009, I have been a volunteer hosting a radio show I created called The Emotion Roadmap: Take the Wheel and Control How You Feel. I really enjoy making a difference in people's lives. The show is on award-winning community radio station WPKN in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In recent years, Simsbury Community Television has been sharing my shows on their station and on YouTube. My sincere hope is that everyone who watches regularly will learn how to use the Emotion Roadmap in their own lives by listening to people who call in to get help with challenges at work, home, and in communities. To learn more, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. If you have a comment or question, email me at cjwolf@cjwolf.com. Thank you and enjoy the show.
On a different topic, on something else I want to raise with you today that I think's really important to talk about. A lot of times people look at the world we live in and we say, in part, it's dysfunctional. And it's dysfunctional partly because our families often are dysfunctional. And inside our families, we are struggling at times to get along with one another. Sometimes we're in two-parent situations where the parents aren't getting along. Sometimes we're in one-parent situations or no parents and we're in foster care, or we're in a situation where we're living with grandparents or aunts and uncles or friends of the family because the parents that brought us into this world, for whatever reason, aren't capable of continuing to take care of us. As you think about what's coming up, we're going to have the experience of Father's Day, and I'm not going to be on before that. So my last show this month is today. And I thought I would ask people to talk about fathers. So those of you who are fathers and have something positive to say about being a dad, something that is remarkable, that just makes you smile and makes you proud and just really elevates you when you think about it and might elevate others when you talk about it, give me a call about being a dad. Now, that seems like I'm limiting it to an audience with just dads, but I'd like also for anyone out there who has something positive to say about their own fathers. Father's Day is coming up. I did something similar on Mother's Day, so I'd just like you to think about on Father's Day, what is it I remember about my dad that I'd like to share with other people that just makes me smile? Just remember him fondly. Or maybe he's still with you and you really still enjoy things that you do together, which is fortunate. My own dad's gone for a long time now, but I remember him dearly. And I'll share a story or two with you about my own dad and what it feels like to me to be a dad, maybe as a way of getting started, but unless there's somebody who's really got something right away. So if you can think about something about being a dad or about your own dad that you think was pretty special to you. It doesn't have to be something amazing. It's just what was special to you. And I'd like to do this in part because I know sometimes it's really hard to be a parent. At times it's a big struggle when your son or daughter or trans or other non-binary or other children that you might have, right, are not acting in the way that you'd like them to act. Sometimes it's a big struggle to try and get that change in behavior that's so important to you. And you sometimes come across as cross, not as affectionate, not as supportive. And so we have some bad moments. And we all experience that too. But I'd like to talk about the positives, the big attraction to being a parent, because I love being a dad. And I have to say, I didn't love it every moment. And I haven't loved it every moment of being a dad. But overall, it is a blessing. It is an enormous blessing. So what are your takeaways around dads, being a dad or your own fathers? So if you got something you'd like to share, you think would be a positive, something that people could get kind of embrace and think about as they begin to think about celebrating Father's Day coming up, the number to call is 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So about my own dad. So in my growing up years, what did I know about my dad? A lot of people really, really love my dad. My dad was funny. He was a storyteller. He had a great voice and he could sing lots of songs. He never remembered all the words to songs, but he never failed to make them up and make them fun. As he was singing, you'd hear him sing a beautiful song and you'd want to hear the end, but he'd then say something really funny because he couldn't remember the words, but as part of the song. Okay, we got a caller. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, this is Enzo.
Hi, Enzo. How you doing?
All right, yourself?
Good, thank you. So you got something about a dad or being a dad?
Well, I got both, so I don't want to take up all your time, or I don't want to take anything away from someone else.
Sure, just go ahead. Take your shot.
So I'll start with my daughter being a father.
Okay.
I never would have imagined that my daughter would have went away to college and graduated in 3 years instead of 4, get her degree, and get a great job and make an income that I will never make.
Good for you. Good. And this is a proud moment as a dad, right? That's what it sounds like.
I would say so.
Nice story. Nice story, Enzo. Congratulations on your child doing so well.
Well, her, not necessarily me.
Well, okay, but you were there. You were part of it.
Yes, and my wife too, not only me.
I'm sure that's part of it, and thanks for reminding everybody about that part.
Now, regarding my father, who me and him came to this country in the 70s.
Okay.
A man that never learned, unfortunately, to read or write English. And was forced to go to work after his father, my grandfather, passed away shortly after the war was over in Italy. So, my grandmother sent him off to provide for the family because he was the oldest one. And we came to the United States to start a new life. I never could imagine someone that, could not read or write very efficiently, that worked wood and was a carpenter and made woodwork better than anyone else that I have seen, not because he's my dad, but never advertised through word of mouth. Just the phone kept ringing.
Wow.
To do work for the people.
Wow.
Something that I will, no matter what education level I have, will never be able to accomplish what he was able to do with his hands.
That's amazing.
Having said that, I hope everyone has a great Father's Day, and I'm sure that everyone's doing the best that they can in these times and every single day that they get up to go to work and provide.
Well, you make a point that I'll just emphasize, Enzo, and that is that, it's not necessarily about, measuring yourself in ways that may be typical to what success means, reading, writing, being able to be educated in a formal setting. It's about doing what you can with the strengths that you have and being proud of it and sharing that and able to make a living with making beautiful things for other people through woodworking is a really nice way to share about something about your dad. Thanks for the call, and I appreciate it.
My pleasure, and I just want to thank you and WPKN for being a great radio station.
Thanks very much, Enzo. Appreciate it. You have a great day, and a happy Father's Day to you when it comes.
Thank you, and everyone out there.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks. So again, if you want to call in and share something about your dad and about being a dad, the number is 203 203-336-9756, 203-336-9756. I'll tell you a little bit about my own experience being a dad. I have 3 daughters. I now have 4 grandchildren, and each of my daughters has worked successfully through the education system in our country, at public schools, and then going through college. Actually, all my kids actually have graduate degrees too. So in our family, that was important, but they've really done something meaningful with their work. And, you know, I'm not proud just that they accomplished getting through school, but I'm accomplished what they did with getting through school. My oldest daughter is someone who had struggled with some kind of sort of learning disabilities that impacted her ability to study, and had a wonderful mentor in the field of learning disability advisors around 6th and 7th grade. And that person became really important to her. And that person actually became a role model. And she went into that field herself and learned how to advocate for herself and for the kids that she serves as a special education teacher. And we have an ex-caller. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hi, my name is Brittany.
Hi, Brittany. Thanks for calling.
Hi, I just wanted to share something about my dad. When I was younger, you know, he was there and funny, great guy. And then through a period of my childhood, you know, he wasn't around, going through his own stuff. But what I wanted to say is that I think it's really important that, you know, moms don't really have a choice, but dads do. And for those of them that choose to be such an important part of their children's lives and stay around and stick around, and he's there for my daughter now, I think it's really important to give credit to the guys that have a choice and choose to do their best. And, you know, my dad's a really great guy, so I just wanted to share that piece.
Well, thanks, Brittany. I think probably, you know, it feels less likely that women have any choices around this. I agree with you, at least societal. You know, the view we have in society is different. But, you know, unfortunately, there's been some moms that haven't stuck around and some dads that had to pick up the pieces. So, but I think what you're saying is how important it is for dads and anyone really who has a choice to be there, and how meaningful it was for you when your dad was there, and you're celebrating the fact that he's there now for your own daughter.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to celebrate that. True.
Well, thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much, and the same to your dad too. And appreciate it. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you again. The number to call if you've got something to share about your own dad or being a dad yourself: 203-336-9756. 203-336-9756. So we heard from Enzo, we heard from Brittany. You got a story about your dad? Something you'd like to share with somebody? Again, 203-336-9756. So another story about being a dad. So I mentioned I had one daughter who became a special education teacher and is a champion for all those kids with needs that are a bit different than what the average child might need. And I don't even mean average. I mean, that's not even the right word. I'm trying to think of people without special needs, perhaps. But we all really have special needs, don't we? In different ways. But some fall into certain categories, I guess, that get special help inside schools. So my daughter's a wonderful advocate for her kids. And she, you know, one of the things that years ago I learned about leadership is that one of the things that really, really successful leaders do, leaders that people want to follow into burning buildings, people that just really inspire others, is they encourage the heart. That's one of the traits, is they encourage the heart, meaning that they encourage the person to love themselves, to love others, to care about others. They care about them. They model this stuff. And my daughter does that. And so I'm very proud of her and the work that she does every day. By the way, if you know anything about that world of special education, there's all kinds of bureaucracy and paperwork and limited funding for all the things these people have to do. And a lot of people have chosen not to be part of schools in recent times, as you know, because of all the craziness in the last few years, particularly around COVID. So if you've got the wherewithal, you've got the ability, and you've got the interest and the passion, I encourage you to be there for kids in schools, to become teachers, to become educators. And even if you're not a formal educator, to get involved with kids in clubs or in foster care or other places where kids are needy, where you might help. Just another thought. But yeah, that's one of my daughters. And then my middle daughter's had an amazing journey, and she actually got her doctorate in analytic chemistry. Thought for a bit about possibly being an educator in a university setting. Decided on taking her skill set to the corporate world, and works for the largest chemical company in the world, and is serving overseas now in a capacity because she had done so well as a leader, as an innovator, not just as an educated scientist, but as a leader and innovator, that they wanted her to have experience with the corporate leaders. It's a company owned in Germany, so she's working over there now and is having an amazing experience. She's got her kids and her husband with her, and they're seeing a lot of Europe because I guess traveling in Europe's different than traveling around here. So for them, how we might travel from one state to the next is how they go from country to country. We went to visit, and we visited and took a train to Paris as an example, took a car ride into the Netherlands. It's pretty amazing, actually, the difference in terms of just being able to go between countries now with the European Union not having borders in the same way that they used to. So it's kind of like traveling in states. It's pretty neat. But she's working on sustainability in chemistry as an innovator, as someone who is really creative, and who is someone who is really respected for her ability to lead others. And so again, what a great feeling of pride in knowing what she's accomplished. So let's see if we can get another caller. 203-336-9756. My middle daughter, by the way, has 2 children, and she manages to, as busy as she is, as high level as she is, and as demanding as her job is, she still is brilliant at finding ways to spend time with her kids. And that's great. And actually, her husband, interestingly enough, is also has his doctorate in chemistry, but has chosen to stay home and raise children. And that's been great for them. And not all families can afford that, or can or have people that want to sort of switch the roles up. It's not like they're formal roles, but they're the traditional roles and that are changing. And so that's working out great for them. So kudos to my son-in-law, who, as a father and a dad, who's taking control of all of the logistics that have to happen to make a family work successfully. That's challenging too. Okay, again, the number is 203-336-9756. I'll give you a minute. 203-336-9756. This is Chuck Wolf. You're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. And we're talking right now about fathers. Hi, this is Chuck. You're on the air. Who am I talking to, please?
Hey, Chuck. This is Robert calling.
Hi, Robert.
From New Haven.
Hi. Thanks for calling, Robert.
Hi. Yeah, I like your show very much. I listen to it as often as I can.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to share with you the pride that I also have in my daughter, who is in the field of drug and alcohol counseling and therapy. And she's a director at a place called Renaissance. And, she's making wonderful money, more than I'll ever make.
That's great.
But she's very, she's very attentive, and our relationship over the years has been really exceptionally close. And, she's married, but she's not going to have any children. She's a career person. But, I also had 2 boys. And, boys are a little different than when you're raising them. And, along the way, you have to not only be a role model and a mentor, but you also have to be that disciplinarian person, you know?
Sure you do. You have to have boundaries, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the boundaries, yeah. And, you know, over the years, you never really know if you actually did the right thing, you know, when you're disciplining children. But my son, one of my sons, he's an adopted son. When he turned, it was on my birthday, and he gave me a card, and he hand wrote inside of the card. He said, over the years, he said, you've been a good dad. He said, and what was most important was he said to me, he says, you were tough, but you were fair. And, you know, that struck a note with me that, you know, the things that you have done, the disciplines that you have done, the good things you have done, you know, you kind of think, like I said before, you know, have you done the right thing? And then when a child writes to you and gives you that message, you know, it makes you really feel like, yeah, you know, I did something right.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I think, you know, a lot of people believe, as you do, that raising boys is different than raising girls. And you know, we have actually, as I said, I had 3 daughters, and now I have 4 grandkids. 3 of them are boys. And it definitely is different than what we experience. Now, of course, you know, we're raised in different times and with different experiences and different partnerships. There's a lot of things that are involved here. But I think most people would agree raising boys is different and challenging in different ways than raising daughters.
Sure.
But they both represent challenges. But you know, when they turn out in a way where they're thankful for what the way you raise them, and they turn out to be someone that you can be proud of. I don't think obviously all of us along the way, there are things that I've done, I know, that I don't know were the right things at the moment, but I did do them. I do remember doing them. And, you know, I can't say I was proud of everything I did raising my kids, but I think they turned out so great that somewhere along the way we were doing things right. And I got to say that, hey, you know, if you're lucky enough to have a partnership with another person in your life who's your partner, and I happen to have a great partner, and my wife Barbara has been, you know, incredible at being supportive and loving and helping the kids to become the daughters that they are, the amazing people that they are. So it isn't. Today isn't just about dads, but it is kind of to celebrate dads, because we got Father's Day coming up, and I thought sometimes dads get a bad rap, and I thought this might be a nice thing to talk about in today's show. So I really appreciate you sharing that about your children.
Yeah. Well, I was when I was coming up, I was being raised. I had like an absentee father. Mm-hmm. I never really knew my dad.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, you know, when that parent is missing from your life, you know, you kind of have to learn how to do things on your own.
Yeah.
You know, that's something I struggled with over the years, that my dad just wasn't around. And so, you know, the feeling that I had, as a child and moving into early adulthood, you know, the feeling that I had was I never wanted my kids to experience that. I wanted my kids to know that I was always there as a dad, and I was supportive to them, and I was a part of their life. And that was a result of not having that in my life. And it was like the flip side of the coin, you know. I wanted to make sure that I was trying to do the right things all the time and be there for my kids. And they appreciated that because they show it in the way we interact with each other and the way our lives are still tied together in a very good way. but it was the result of, like I say, the absentee dad. I think about that often, but I'm kind of over it, meaning, emotionally. But when I was younger, it was tough,
It's interesting you say that, because in part this show is about celebrating dads, but it's also, I hope, encouraging to people out there who are dads, who are struggling with being there with their families right now. And I think your message it really resonates with me, and I hope with lots of people, with the idea about how important it is to show up and to be a part of their lives, even if you can't be everything you want to be, and you feel like you might not have the skills that you need every moment of the day to be there, to be the kind of dad you thought you could be when you were growing up, but just to be a dad and to be there some of the time. As Brittany said, her dad was able to be there in the early part of her life, and then later on wasn't there, but he's back now involved with her daughter, and it's great. And I just encourage everybody who's listening to. I'm sorry, what was your first name again?
I'm sorry, what?
What was your first name again?
Robert.
Robert, I think the things that you just said hopefully resonate with everybody else that's a dad that's out there that is kind of in between, isn't quite stepped away yet, or is thinking about it, but how important that you found it. And I think that you also can learn, as you've demonstrated, about how to be a good dad by what you don't see and what you don't experience and what's wrong, right?
Yeah.
So that's not the best way to learn it, but you did learn it, and it's really something that you can be proud of. So thank you, Robert, for the call. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay.
All righty. You take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay. I got time for one more call if somebody wants to call in. Again, 203-336-9756. But I also got my last daughter. I want to talk about it. I don't want to miss her. She is the youngest of our group, and she was perhaps the most challenging, at least initially, to raise. But she's also I don't want to say they're all loving, but she is so warm and so loving and so supportive. And also she's the one that lives closest to us and has 2 grandchildren that we see a lot. She's very much in our lives these days, and it is wonderful. She's incredibly creative and bright and talented, and struggled some while she was growing up in schools. And we had some challenges in terms of what's the right thing to do? How do we approach this? And as smart as we might think we are at times, we're not always that smart about knowing what's the right thing to do. But there was a moment in time where a switch went on, and she just became an amazing young woman. And she continues to be that. She's got her graduate degree in psychology. She's in communications and marketing, and a very significant senior role too in our company. And she's seen as someone with great potential, who people love working for, and who people love having her work for them. At the same time, she too is amazing with her children. She finds the time to be at home with her kids. Now, she and her husband both work, and he's a great guy too. And they have really good jobs, both of them. Very senior, significant jobs, both do well. But then you have to find time for your children too, and they have 2 very young kids, and they do find time. But we also my wife gets to help more than me. I'm good for a couple hours. That's about it. But I do love being there and helping out and being a part of it. So I hope you've enjoyed our show today. I hope you enjoyed listening to Enzo and to Brittany and to Robert talk about their experiences as dads, some of the experiences they had with their dads, what I talked about being a dad, and about my experience with my own father and some of the things that I cherished about him. And again, it's not all black and white. It's not all good or all bad with any of us. But I thought, as you think about Father's Day, it's useful to think about, as a person who is a father of children, even if there's a struggle with the partner, the biological partner, the idea of being there for the kids is so incredibly important that I encourage you all to do the best you can, to be there whenever you can, and to be there for your children. If you want people to grow up emotionally sound, mentally healthy, feeling good about who they are and where they come from. Be a part of it. Be the best possible you when you're with them. Make yourself available to them even when you're not at your best. Showing up, Woody Allen said years ago, of course he's quite a role model anyway, but something he said, 80% of life is just showing up. And that kind of resonated with a lot of people, and it still resonates for me. And I think a big part of your life and your ability as a dad is showing up. And then when you show up, be the best possible version as you can. You know, make life special for your kids in any way that you can. Anyway, you've been listening to Chuck Wolf. I'm the host of this Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. I hope today was a show that gave you some insights. We talked a little bit with Doug McLeod in the beginning of the show about Sandy Hook Promise and the importance of that whole foundation and the work that they do, but also about, people that are dealing with suicide. So that was important, and I thank Doug for his call. And then we talked about dads. And I'll just repeat the suicide hotline for anybody that happens to want to know that. It's 800-273-8255. The website is suicidepreventionlifeline.org, suicidepreventionlifeline.org. And I'm going to have to go in a couple minutes, folks. So again, this is Chuck Wolf. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you all, to all my regular listeners. If you're new to the show, I'm on the first and second Wednesdays of each month from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Richard Epstein's going to come up on next, and so enjoy his show. And I wish you all the best and a happy Father's Day, and I'll be back with you in July. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.